Good evening and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for the Rossmore Community Services District. Tonight is October 9, 2012. Here we have the roll call, please.
Director Kaler.
Here.
Director Casey.
Here.
Director Maynard.
Here.
Director Rips.
Here.
President Coletta.
Here. Would you join us as we pledge our allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no presentations this evening and no additions to the agenda, so now we'll move to the public forum. That's where the audience may approach the board. Give us your first and last name, please, for the record. You may address us as you please concerning matters where we have jurisdictional responsibility. And should you seek any action, we'll refrain and entertain those as board member items at the close of the meeting. However, we would not be able to take any action as we listen to you. If it pleases you, please approach the podium.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Jeffrey King. I'm here on behalf of the Rossmore Homeowners Association. I'm not a board member, I'm simply a volunteer, and I'm here representing our request that's on your agenda, I believe in the middle somewhere, for your support or co-sponsorship of the 2013 festival that, as you're all well aware, is an annual event. So I'm just stepping up now to let you know that I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ralph Fertabedian. I'm here to speak on item D2. Would you rather I wait until that comes up for consideration?
You can, if you please defer to later, we'll have more opportunity to get into more substantive debate collectively. Thanks.
I'm Joyce Bloom, and this is my oral Rossmore Gate. And why is it oral? It appears that some people have complained about the title Rossmore Gate. Personally, I think it's kind of cute. However, Rossmore Gates are now relegated by the editor of The Sun, Dennis Kaiser, to the letter to the editor's column. After last month's meeting, Mr. Callert expressed the need for a police officer to protect him. From me, I guess. Is that why this board is striving for latent police power? However, if this board has any ideas about arresting anyone for their right to free speech, I read the following from the New York Times for this board's edification. The title of this thing is Speech, Cranky and Free. To the City Council in Santa Cruz, California, Robert Norse was a pest long before he sued it. An old-fashioned and full-time activist, he championed the city's homeless and showed up regularly at meetings, making cranky comments and daring members to lose their cool, which they did. In March 2002, in an incident viewable on YouTube, as a gesture of silent protest, when the council asked someone else to stop talking, Mr. Norse raised his left arm in a Nazi salute. He was thrown out of the meeting, arrested when he refused to leave, and released without charges. Mr. Norse then sued the city and council members for infringing on his First Amendment right to sound off. But on the eve of the trial and on his own motion, the trial judge threw out the case because he said the people Mr. Norse sued had official immunity. But on December 15th, the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit unanimously sided with Mr. Norse in a tart and persuasive opinion. Judge Sidney Thomas said that in ruling on his own motion, sua sponte, and without an adequate notice, the trial judge had not given Mr. Norse a fair chance to be heard and had thus abused the legal process. but he also made plain that even a guy who's a pest can count on the protections of the First Amendment. It's all right to set reasonable time limits on public comments, Judge Thomas said. But if you have a right to be in a place, the right to free speech comes with you. As the Ninth Circuit's Chief Judge, Alex Kaczynski, wrote in a concurring opinion about what he saw on the YouTube video, quote, "It clearly shows that Norse's Zig Heil was momentary and casual, causing no disruption whatsoever. Mr. Norse is not the only beneficiary of the appellate court ruling.
Mrs. Blum, you've approached your 3-minute mark.
All of us who value free speech,
Mrs.
even when
Blum,
it's
I've reminded you again
obnoxious,
for a second
are
time.
stronger for
You've
it."
exceeded your 3 minutes. Thank you for respecting this forum, ma'am. Thank you for respecting the forum. You don't have to respect me. All right, anyone else, please?
Dave Burgess, Rossmore resident. I have a list here of 20 items that I'd like to discuss, but certainly I can't address them in a 3-minute time frame. I will say, though, that I've sent about 50 emails that have yet to be answered, maybe 1% of them. I don't appreciate it, and I have the list here if anybody's interested in obtaining it. I'm not going to go into details. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that appears to be the entirety of the public that wishes to address the board. At this point, then, we'll move on to reports to the board. Mr. Tabaoda.
Mr. President, members of the board, at last month's meeting, I was asked to report on the status of covered parkways where trees could not be planted. As you know, with the departure of Randy Reynolds, that we lost continuity with what had been going on between he and the county regarding that status. We have an interim tree consultant, Mary Kingman, who has gone out and resurveyed all of those sites and has provided you with an update on all of those. And I can report to you that we have a majority of those that are ready for excavation, that is, the clearing of those obstacles to planting a tree. And all that we need to do at this point is to direct a letter to Orange County Public Works and have them begin the process of making room available for a street tree. Now, they're uncertain about 3 of those sites where the residents appealed to the board and those appeals were denied. They are not clear as to what their course of action will be with regard to those 3 sites, but we can certainly work with them on some resolution of that, and you may in fact have to consult general counsel to determine what your options are. But for the most part, we have removed 3 of the sites as really unacceptable for a tree. 3 of them have been appealed, and we have some work to do with those, but the remainder really only require us to notify the county by letter of our intention to proceed with this project and to clear the site so that we can plant those trees.
All right, so you were looking for some direction this evening?
No, sir, not at this point. I'm going to write the letter and get the process started. And as we work through this list and get to those 3 sites where we have resident objection to a tree, come back to you with a list of options as to how to proceed with those.
So on a lot of the, especially on the red items, you're working with the county in terms of the course of action in addition to our legal counsel?
Well, we haven't started that dialogue with the county yet because we've been working with staff. And it may be that we need to run that up the chain of command to
Right.
get a decision maker to decide formally what their position is. County staff has said they're a little uneasy about proceeding with sites where there's objection. But they haven't said they won't do it. They just said that they'll need to get approval from higher up.
To be determined.
Correct.
Thank you.
But you can see there's a major progress from the list that was originally placed on your agenda, and which was provided by County Public Works, and what Ms. Kingman was able to articulate for you as part of this agenda item.
Indeed, that's true.
Any other comments? No? All right, thank you for the report. We'll move to our D2.
Mr. President, members of the board, item D2 is a report on a CIP project titled Refurbishment of Rush Park Field Number 1. You may recall that as part of the MOU process between the community, the LAGSL, and the district, that we agreed that we would place a project on the CIP agenda for refurbishment of Field 1 at Rush Park, so that certain games that are now played at Rossmore Park could be moved to Rush Park in order to lessen the burden and the impact of the schedule of LAGSL at Rossmore Park. We were ready to proceed with a recommendation to the CIP committee and ultimately, hopefully, to the board that would have that would have authorized us to begin with the project. We put this item out specifically at this point because the rainy season is almost upon us and the spring ball season starts in January, and we wanted to get this project completed so that we could utilize this new field as part of the schedule of play for that spring ball season. We had a proposal from a vendor for a project of a little over $24,000, which was well within the realm of the budget for the CIP, and also was a no-bid project requirement since it did not cross the $25,000 threshold, which adds substantial cost to the project due to prevailing wages, competitive bidding, etc. Within hours of the CIP meeting, we received an updated project cost proposal from the vendor saying that there had been a miscalculation in the cost of the materials required for this project. The committee deliberated the implications of this, and staff recommended to the committee that it would be impractical to continue with this project within the time frame that we were attempting to begin, and that we should basically make a recommendation to the board that we defer this project to another fiscal year since it couldn't be accomplished in the time frame that was available to us. And that is the recommendation of the committee, that you defer this project until a future date when either we have better numbers to work with or there is a restructuring of the CIP to accommodate a project that now is in the range of $50,000. That's the recommendation of the committee.
Does the committee want to suggest anything or make any comments other than what we've had here that's black and white?
Well, we were going, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, I can't. I'm sitting so far down, I can't hear you.
What I said was, does the CIP committee like to make any comments other than what we have here in black and white?
I'll provide some texture. We were very open to the concept of improving that field, not only for the girls softball league, but for everybody's use. When we thought it was going to be around a $15,000 project, with LHL or LAGSL helping out with the demolition, it was a worthwhile initiative. I thought we were going into a meeting to put a rubber stamp on it and let's move forward. But then we were a little blindsided last minute by a major escalation in cost that literally takes it 3 times more expensive than what it was. So then it just didn't... Minimally. And now, instead of us just doing it, we have to go out for competitive bid and all of those complexities. So it felt like the prudent thing to do was to push this off to another fiscal year, especially as we're getting into rainy seasons, and this is a limited time for when you want to do that work. So that's where the committee was coming from. It was just a very expensive project that when, it's one thing when it's, you know, you're thinking 15 to 20, but when it escalates over 50, and then our general manager, based on his experience, says it's probably even more than that once you open it up to the bid and all the restrictions of fair practice, and et cetera. So it just doesn't seem like the right time to do it. At least, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So that's where we're coming from by putting a placeholder on this and saying not this year.
Did Sportsfield Services give any indication how they had such a major oversight in terms of pricing this? Because I'm sure they do lots of business in this field. That's just total. That's almost shocking that it could be off that much.
I think their comment was, oops. They made a mistake in the original, but I'll let Emily address. I think it goes down to an oops.
Okay.
You're correct, Director Maynard. What Sportsfield Services does is they get a quote for the infield mix from a company based out of Arizona. And when they initially contacted that company for the quote for the field, that company provided a number to Sportsfield Services, who put their 10% on it. And when we went back to make sure the quote was accurate before taking this to the CIP committee, it was, hold on, oops, major calculation error in the cost of the infield mix. So we were just, like you said, blindsided.
Mr. President, members of the board, it could be, and this is just conjecture, that the project that was accomplished at Field 3 at Rossmore Park was done on a grant basis with the material basically donated, at least most of it, for that project. And they may have, in fact, looked at an old estimate and provided that as part of this proposal. Because otherwise, it doesn't make any sense that they would just make such a gross error in calculating the cost of the material.
So it's back to the drawing board, it appears.
Well, the committee will need to look at this project within the context of the whole CIP program.
Of course.
If you were to go forward with this project at this cost, you would have to totally restructure your project list, amend the budget, do a number of things, which the committee was not prepared to do.
No, understood.
And had no background on with which to do it at that moment in time.
Right. I agree with their conclusion based on what you're showing us.
Mr. Varabedi?
Thank you for recognizing me. I understand the bid came in just hours before the meeting occurred. So I'm just going to compare that, if I could quickly, to a decision that any of us might make at our home after a year of discussing a needed improvement in your house. You discuss with the family, you gain consensus, you thrash it out, you create a design, everybody's on the same plane, you get one bid, and within hours of getting that bid, you say, oh no, we're not going to be able to afford it, we're going to postpone it for a year. My request to the board is to spend 1 month and take another look at whether there is another bidder that could do the job for less. There are a number of options I'd like to suggest that we could look at in the course of 1 month. One is, could Sportsfield contractors, could we push the bid down? Could we exert some pressure on them? Could we review the scope of the work that we specified and examine whether there was something in there that was a big cost driver? Could we seek alternative bids from another company? Could we find other sources of funding? And I'm not suggesting LAGSL or Rcsd has to step up to the plate, but as I understand it, you have $25,000 in your capital improvement budget. LAGSL has offered to do $10,000 worth of in-kind work. Seems like we have a $13,000 gap. I know that we wanted to do it for less than what was in the budget, and that would be nice, but we do have $25,000 in the budget. We have a $13,000 gap. Maybe that's not insurmountable. And just finally, if we take it off the budget and then put it back on again next year, we'll be facing this same narrow window of trying to find a contractor and get a bid to do it before the spring season begins in January, but after the beginning of your fiscal year. So it seems like we'll be back in the very same trap next year. At least keep it on the budget, and then maybe next spring or something, or, I mean, if we can't do it in the fall right away, then at least it gives you the option after the spring season is over or some other time during the year to do it. So I hope we don't turn away from this, because my concern is we've all put so much work into this. We finally have an agreement in which Rcsd, LAGSL, and the neighborhood are all in agreement on this. If we take it off the budget, I don't know what is going to happen in the future, what needs are going to be cited by the district. But I'm afraid that we'd be at risk of losing the entire baby with the bathwater.
Mr. President, members of the board, I don't believe that the committee said to take it out of the budget. They say defer the project. That the budget, it requires the board to amend the budget, and the next time you would have an opportunity to do that would be at the mid-year adjustment in January. So there's no recommendation that I'm aware of from the committee to remove it from the budget.
Well, my thoughts are that it's going to be a project that's not on hold, but it's slowly churning, assuming that the CIP committee is still suggesting it go to a new calendar year, fiscal calendar year, because for publications, for bids, to go out to bid, to have a proposal written up, to publish it, to get a response, there's time. There's a certain timeline process that we've had visited upon us before in other projects. And then as well, perhaps research can be done as to what other vendors will be available, maybe another vendor for the product that's going to be installed. I'm sure you folks have given some thought to that.
Yeah, one of the complexities is the LAGSL's donation of $10,000 in labor is specific to using this particular vendor. So even if we go with another vendor, now we have an extra bogey on top of that. So
it's not, I mean, it's not guaranteed, but there was a relationship that that vendor had comfort in the league doing the work, so we don't know if that's going to carry forward. I do think it's reasonable to give it a little bit of time to see where this goes. I don't necessarily think we have to take it off the budget or even move it right now into the next fiscal year. I do think we have to defer it. It's not going to happen now before the season starts. I do think they have taken some time to do a little bit of investigation to see if there's other pricing, because if it's under $25,000, we don't have to go through the whole process. But if it's going to be over, then not only do we have to look at that as in terms of getting bids, but we have to make a decision. The CIP committee has to make a decision based on how we want to allocate funds for the most benefit for our entire community. You know, at a certain amount of money, it would seem like a reasonable project to do. If it gets much higher, then we have all these other lists that we've all talked about that we want to accomplish for our community. So I think deferring it, just in terms of not saying we're going to move it out to another fiscal year right now, is okay. I think that we can take some time, a month or so, and do a little bit of investigation so we have more information, and then see where it lays. I do want to say, I just want to make it clear that there was never a commitment, although we are working towards doing this, to build the field. There was a commitment that we would take it to the CIP committee and that we would seriously consider this and make it part of our process. And we are doing that, and we have done that, and Emily has put in a lot of time towards this. So I think that we are honoring the process that we went through with the league and the neighbors, and we want to continue that. But there was never this is definitely going to happen. It was something that we wanted to. We thought it was a benefit, and we are working towards that. But I don't want you to think that we're not fulfilling that obligation as part of that that process.
So exactly when does the next season start? Just for my clarification.
Sorry, the next
season, you say prior to the next season.
Spring ball starts in January, the
Okay.
latter part of January.
The last part?
Latter part, yes.
Okay, very good. Yeah. All right.
Mr. Keller?
CIP committee members, did you gentlemen consider taking that same roughly $15,000 investment and redoing the dirt and fields, either 1 or 2 at Rossmore Park? which would eliminate further the need for any Sunday rainout games, and would give the park back to the residents on Sundays. That would reduce the use on.
I think it really wasn't a conversation that the CIP was having. It was really kind of expanding our fields to have other arenas that we could actually have the sports. LAGSL was very open to that. We have a field here that we could expand and not interfere with AYSO, which is another regular user here, and that would just enhance our parks. And I think we'd get a more, I guess to say, bigger bang for our buck in terms of enhancing this field as opposed to redoing field 1 or 2. And my understanding is that LAGSL is now really, and with the district, the sprinklers are better and the dust has become much more manageable, and it's been a better system there. So the idea was really to kind of try to offload, and if the league ever got back to the demographics it had 5-10 years ago, that there would be another field that we could actually accommodate. So that was at least my line of thinking, and not to invest in one of those fields at this moment.
Okay, I agree with the fact that you should look into the funding and also the renewing of the girls softball thing at Rush Park. I believe that was a commitment that you had made at a previous meeting. Maybe you don't think it was a commitment, but I was there and I certainly thought it was a commitment. However, the allocation of funds, you are doing something out of your jurisdiction, signage at Rossmore Village. Take that $25,000 and put it into the fields for Rush Park. The girls' softball needs it. The people around Rossmore Park would love you for it. And that's my suggestion.
You mentioned that they would enhance the fields at Rush Park by upgrading the ball field number 1. There's been a lot of work that yourself and Mr. Tabaoda, Emily has done with the league with the residents at Rossmore Park over years. It wasn't just last year, it's been over a course of time, and that's really appreciated. But one of the things that I would like to see happen, and I think there's time before a decision's made up or down on this, is that there be more of a significant outreach for the residents of Rush Park. I want them to be confident that when the term enhanced is used, that it doesn't mean that it's going to have an end result equally to what has occurred over the course of decades at Rossmore Park. I think that if over the course of months that there's more work in this area of investigating vendors, costs, when it's best up for installation, if assuming the board agrees to it, that everyone around the park, say within 200 feet of the park, really has an understanding what it means. And it's not going to be a detriment, but it's really going to be a field that can be used by all as opposed to just by LAGSL, and that they don't feel that they're being ignored and that they're buying into this as well. It'd be nice to see residents of Rush Park support this, as opposed to it's installed and then we get complaints. Well, we didn't know about it. Well, yeah, you did. It was notified on our prior to every meeting. We agendize and we post. But there really is the same notification when there's perhaps a letter or flyer given to the resident. When there's a letter that goes to the resident, that's a different notification because they're directly impacted. And I think that it would bode well for all of us when it comes down to a decision.
I agree with you. I do think, just to, I guess, say the other side a little bit, is that the impact of playing softball at Rush Park will be, I'll use the word minimal compared to what AYSO does when they're here, because it's one game at one time versus 3 or 4 soccer games that are taking place at one time with all the comparison and things like that. It's drastically less than what they are normally used to with AYSO, which is here quite often with all the kids. So I do think reaching out to them is just a smart thing to do. But I think in terms of the impact that they'll have, it's much less than what they're already experienced with AYSO.
That's good. That's good to say to them. I think they would appreciate hearing that before we made a decision. Then they don't feel it's done in a vacuum. You have personal experience with the league. So does Mr. Kahlert, and I would relish that opinion given your family's involvement with the LAGSL. You have daughters that have been
And AYSL.
involved with the league, and that's a different footprint than for myself. So is the CAP committee want to make a motion?
I'm not sure that a motion, I think we wanted to make sure that you just understood that we are not making a motion to proceed with this at this point. It's still part of the budget, it's still part of the plan, and I think that the advisement of just kind of giving it a month to do some research, see what kind of information we can get before we do make a concrete, I think makes sense.
How do you guys feel?
Well, I guess the next step then is to do a little more research, perhaps other vendors, or maybe even working with the same vendors, since they have the relationship with the LAGSL in terms of the exchanging their labor for, like the monies that we'll save on it. So I suppose you will be taking both steps, or that's how we proceed. I just want to make sure what the next steps were.
Mr. President, members of the board, as part of staff's due diligence at our next CIP committee meeting, we will have to bring to them any research or any information that we're able to obtain before that meeting. So we don't need direction to do that. We'll simply do that as part of our normal due diligence.
Okay.
Good.
There's a hand up, I don't know if you want to.
Ms. Burgess, I'm sorry.
I just received the 2 bids a couple days ago. In the original bid, there was 12 grand for the materials and installed. That was 100 tons. So round numbers, $120 a ton. Now they're saying it's 75 tons, which is a 25% reduction. So either the scope of the projects changed significantly. I don't know the specs of the field. I went over to Rossmore Park and looked. One's a little bigger than the other, I believe. The dirt is all the way to the fence versus grass. But this bid makes no sense. I've called Stabilized Solutions. I received a return phone call. This material does not cost, $200 a ton, I don't think, just my guess. And my estimate for this project would probably be from start to finish a week. So to do $49,000 worth of construction in dirt is outrageous. The demo could be 100% completed in 1 day with a tractor. I know there's some prep work, removing the bases, make sure there's no underground lines. I assume it's only irrigation. There's probably no gas lines or electrical out there. I don't know. But something's very wrong with this bid. And I think the first step is to get sports field, if the board or Emily or whoever's involved in this project, to sit down with sports field. Well, how do you miss, by 250% on your cost? It makes no sense. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't even, now I think about it 2 seconds later, I wouldn't even have a discussion with Sports Field Services anymore on this project. And I know that they have, a few years ago, did some volunteer work. I actually helped lay the dirt, I believe, in Field 2 at Rossmore Park probably 7 years ago, where there are a lot of volunteers. I'm not always sure that volunteers are the best way to go, because you get a tractor out there, someone can scrape that field 2.5 inches deep, 10,000 square feet, probably 6 hours. Go to CRR that we spend X thousand dollars a year with, ask them, hey, can you provide us with enough dumpsters to dump 60 yards of dirt and or grass? There's a lot of creative ways, and I don't know that the president of the LAGSL was at the meeting. I was not. But
Mr. Burgess, I think we get your view. And I think we have to just trust the staff to do their due diligence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll take this back when it's appropriate to the CIP committee and you bring it back to the board?
Well, it's a two-step process. It'll be the CIP committee to look at the project list and the budget and those issues. And then the budget committee will have to deal with the mid-year budget adjustment if there's any fallout from that.
Okay. All right. All right. Then let's move on to the consent calendar. There's two matters this evening. Any board member can ask either or both to be removed and discussed at length. We choose. No one's moving to remove.
I'm good.
We're good? All right, then all in favor of the consent calendar, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I abstain, I was not here at the last meeting.
Okay, that's well enough. You were excused. That's great. All right, so the motion carries 4 with 1 abstention. Now we go to the resolutions, Mr. Tabaoda.
Mr. President, members of the board, item G1 is a resolution rejecting a government claim for damage. Per our procedures with our insurance carrier, SDRMA, we're bringing this resolution to you so that you may reject this claim in order to start the time clock for negotiating a settlement of this through our insurance carrier. And so this is a pro forma act on the part of the board to adopt this resolution. Subsequent to that adoption, we will notify the claimant of the action of the board, giving them their options with contacting SDRMA and having their insurance carrier take that on with them. And so you have in front of you the resolution, the claim, and an email from SDRMA advising the district to reject the claim. Our recommendation is that you approve by roll call resolution number 12100901 by reading title only and waiving further reading as follows. Resolution of the Board of the Rossmore Community Services District, rejection of government claim.
Ms. Bloom, if you wish to address the board, you can state your name, raise the question.
In the interest of transparency, I think I'd like to know what the government claim is.
Mr. Tabaoda, do you have an answer?
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a claim by an individual whose car was parked under a parkway tree. A large branch fell and damaged the car, and so people are asking for compensation for the damages caused to that car. But since cars are typically insured by the owner of the vehicle, then it becomes an issue between that insurance carrier and our insurance carrier to determine the proper method of payment or procedure for this claim.
All right, may we have a roll call, Ms. Darian?
Director Kaler?
Aye.
Director Casey?
Aye.
Director Maynard?
Aye.
Director Rips?
Aye.
President Coletta?
Aye. All right, motion carries for the resolution, or the roll call carries. Now we go to G2, the other resolution.
Mr. President, members of the board, as you may know, we have had several long-term medical absences from employees. Typically, sick leave is intended to cover these kinds of absences, but it's not always enough to cover their costs during the recovery period from surgeries or other medical procedures. There is a program that is part of the state disability insurance program which covers most employees other than government employees. But there is a program of elective coverage for disability that mirrors SDI and is an insurance program that pays a sum to an employee who is unable to work due to disability. The employees of the district have asked me to bring this matter to you and to ask you to approve the district's participation in this program. The program is fully funded by the contribution of each individual of 1% of salary, and is something that our employees feel is a necessary complement to the district's sick leave program. And so we ask your approval of this resolution to authorize us to apply to the state of California under this program and to insure our employees.
So this program, the way it functions, is very similar to how SDI works for everyone else, except for the people that will be covered by this.
That's correct, sir.
Good.
At no cost to the district.
Yeah, I understand that. That's great.
If an employee doesn't want to participate, they're allowed to not participate, or does it have to be all of our employees?
Kathy, do you want to speak to that? I believe that we have to have 100% participation, but it could be that you can opt out.
Yes, any employee that works 20 or more hours a week, they have to be, but everyone wants it. We'll have them all signed up, but I've already checked and everyone wants it. We have 100%.
I think the question is, can an employee opt out? What if they...
No.
they
No,
can't?
once they sign up, it's basically, it's mandatory for most employees except for municipal governments and some religious groups, but they have the special elective coverage for the municipal government that we can go ahead and sign up if the employees want it. But once we do go with it, then all employees, all future employees will have the deductible, the 1%.
And this,
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead. Good.
And this doesn't cost the district
No.
anything.
No, it's taken directly from the employees. It's 1% of their salary, and it'll be taken directly from the employees, and then we will pay the state disability along with the unemployment, things like that, but the employee pays for this.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is very much like AFLAC, when you authorize us to cover employees with AFLAC supplemental insurance. So it's something that we've done previously.
I think it's a great program. I've never heard of there's no impact to the employer. I've always felt that was the case.
So we're just basically making a vote here tonight to, if the district wants to establish this as a benefit for its employees at their cost.
Correct.
As we move forward.
A resolution of the board is required for us to apply.
Okay. So really, it's irrelevant whether they want it or not. We are making a determination whether we think this is a good thing for the district.
Well, the current employees have said yes. Future employees will not have a choice.
Right. So it really
Yeah.
is.
Okay, so hypothetical question, somebody,
doesn't either. I just
you
wanted
opt
to make
into
sure we're
this,
covered
3
with
months
that.
into it, somebody's been paying 1% of their salary for 3 months, which can't be that much, and then they go on permanent disability. This covers that? I'm not clear.
It's
how-
exactly the same as the state. It's run from the state disability program. What it is they have a certain amount of time that while you're paying it, you have to be in completely for a year for you to get the maximum benefits from it. And it does just last a year. It isn't a permanent disability. It's 1 year, it's state disability.
So it's just a resolution, it's not a motion we need, correct?
Sir?
It's a resolution, so we don't need to make a motion. Is that correct?
Correct. It's
You
roll
you
call.
need to adopt the resolution.
All right, so we need a motion for the adoption.
You take a roll call vote, and that'll determine your
Okay.
course of
Another
action.
question from the.
You have another question? Is there a question? Yes. We can't hear you on the recording, so if we can have the benefit of your question?
What would it cost the district to pay for the California state disability, which most employers do pay for?
I have no understanding of what that answer is.
Government employees are not covered by SDI, so they're not eligible. This is the only way they become eligible.
They can't be covered by
They
SDI?
cannot.
Okay, so this is their only prerogative?
That's asked and answered.
All right, let's have a roll call.
Director Kaler,
And then a yes vote is authorizing the district to
Correct.
accept the resolution.
Yes.
Is that- Yeah. Yes.
Director Casey,
Aye.
Director Maynard,
Aye.
Director Rips,
Aye.
President Coletta.
Aye. All right, now we go to the regular calendar. H1.
Mr. President, members of the board, H1 is a request by the Rossmore Homeowners Association for co-sponsorship of the 2013 Rossmore Community Festival. For many years now, the district and the RHA have partnered in putting on this festival, and the request this year is exactly the same as that for last year, with the exception that they're asking for it earlier than before. So we're giving us a little more time to gear up for this, and there is nothing that causes us to believe that this isn't a worthwhile venture for the district, and we recommend your approval.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, but the guy came. Should we let him speak
Mr.
before
King,
we
you
say
wish
yes?
to?
I was going to say.
You want to say ditto?
Ditto.
Anything you need to tell us?
If I knew it was going to be that easy, I wouldn't have bothered. I'm here simply to answer any questions you might have. I think this is pretty standard procedure in Rossmore. Everyone knows how it goes. It's been here for quite a few years. There are a few changes that are going to occur, but I don't know if you want me to bore you to death with all of the committee discussions that we've had. The only real impact on the RCSD, I think, is your involvement from helping us with the park that we facilitate the festival in. Obviously, the help of Emily, one of your staff, and you know, just that general participation. Beyond that, I'm not sure you need or want the details, but I'm here to answer if you want the details.
Well, so the lessons learned by both the RHA and the RCSD, I suppose that that's going to be applied to make it even better next year. And I don't even really know what those issues are, but
County of Orange?
I know that every year, you know, we learn something and then we make it better.
By all means, this is becoming more of a challenge just from a county standpoint, from a permit standpoint, from a fee standpoint. All of these things seem to be bigger issues now. They weren't really a big deal in years past. I've been involved in this committee for a few years, and it's just more work. So I don't believe it's going to cost you guys any more work. It's going to cost the committee more work, but I think we've got a good handle on it.
Yeah, because one good thing that came out of last year is, if I recall correctly, is there were a lot more vendors that were involved last year, and in terms of the community being able to have access to them, and it also provided more funds, if I am correct, in terms of supporting the event.
Yeah, by all means. The event was definitely a bigger success last year from a financial standpoint and the impact on the RHA. It was a net positive, which I believe may have been the first year ever that it was a positive financial impact on the RHA. Didn't cost net after sponsorship and things of that nature. The issues this year are the food vendors and things of that nature. We've got a lot of small mom and pop shops in Rossmore that love to get out in the community and do the things that you'd think community festivals would be all about, but from a county standpoint, they're not so happy about that, so we're negotiating.
Okay.
I guess we're not negotiating, they're telling us and we're saying yes, but either way,
Right.
we're doing our best to accommodate everyone from a
Excellent.
vendor standpoint. It's working out great so far. We, the one thing that you just may be aware of from a food standpoint, we've done a lot of different things to try to appease everyone from a permit, or more importantly from a, I guess a inspector standpoint. The gentleman that showed up from the county last year that was inspecting was very diligent in doing his job, and we're doing our best to meet with them before the event to make sure there's no issues or misunderstandings, I guess, at the day of the event.
Right, so we're getting in front of it this time.
Yeah, obviously.
But last time it wasn't anticipated, I don't think, so.
No, not at all.
There wasn't much we could have done.
We were surprised last year.
Right.
This year, we're well ahead of it.
All right, does anyone want to make
Any
that motion?
questions? Again, we're here to answer them.
I already did.
We did. We've had a second, we've had this deliberation. Any further comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You have
Any
a comment,
opposed?
you have a comment from the
Yeah,
public.
there's a question.
Well, I'd like to finish this.
Yes, no.
Any opposed? Silent, none opposed. The motion passed.
Great,
Someone
thank
had
you
a
very
question or
much.
comment?
Thanks
you,
for your
Mr.
times.
Thank you.
I'm in full support of the RHA and the RCSD putting on this. I think it's a great community involvement. I've read the letter briefly, and I'm sure there's manpower commitments from both organizations, probably more from the RHA. Is there any monetary impact on the RCSD?
Mr. President, members of the board, the only fiscal impact to the district is that we pay for the stage. And the reason that we do that is because we rent it from a government agency who only lets other governments use it. So we've taken on that responsibility for several years, and it's a nominal amount.
I'm good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Board member, general manager items.
Mr. President, members of the board, I have two items. The first I want to bring to your attention for the public primarily. I know that that's been reported in the press and other media that Rossmore was ranked as the most livable community suburb in Goldwell-Banker study of suburbanite communities across the country, and ranked 9th overall across the country. That's a real testament to the value and the values and the I guess the internal structure of this community to have been rated at that high throughout the nation and throughout the state. And so we're very pleased that with that recognition, and we'd like the broader community to be aware of it and to celebrate really what an accomplishment that is. And we're in contact with several agencies who publish periodicals and other publications, and we're trying to make maximum exposure of this so that the community is recognized throughout the country and throughout the state for this accomplishment.
May I suggest for the May event, what is it, our May picnic, that we have perhaps something to allude to that, perhaps when people come to the event that who are visiting, family and friends that don't live here, they would understand that this is a special place. We like to think it's special. And who knows, maybe Coldwell-Banker would be interested in having a booth and pushing that if we don't.
We'll certainly look into that. Second item that I have is that I prepared for you a memorandum based on an inquiry made by one of the larger organizations in the Rossmore community regarding the status and costs of the issues and initiatives of governance that is being carried on by the district. And that memorandum basically covers most of the issues that the district is involved in, gives some indication of the reasons that the district is involved, and then really sets forth the work plan, if you will, that the district is following. You may recall that before the district began these initiatives, that they commissioned a community poll. And the results of that poll is really what's guiding this effort, because we heard very clearly from the community what they liked and didn't like about what was going on in their community. And as a result of that, then the board proceeded then with their initiatives with beginning the latent powers process, having public forums, inviting Los Alamitas to come and talk to us about annexation and providing services, adoption of resolutions by this board in support of going forward with latent powers. And that has resulted in several initiatives that we're currently working on. One that was very successful was the application by Assemblymember Silva on behalf of the RCSD to request an Attorney General opinion on annexation, or the ability of anyone to annex the business district within Rossmore. That was a very successful initiative, didn't cost the district anything except, the time to speak with Supervisor Silva and have the request made to the Attorney General. We also have been engaged with the Orange County Public Works Department regarding our urban forest. And we spoke about one of those at this meeting's agenda with regard to planting trees where trees cannot be currently planted because driveways are not suitable or have been made unsuitable for planting of a tree. We've also are dealing with the county on other issues of tree removal, where the county is basically taking the position that they're the final word on the removal of a tree that they say is unsafe. We're working through those issues with the county currently, and certainly that is something that is well within the district's area of responsibility and authority. We're also asking for data from the county. And we have made Public Records Act requests for county data to substantiate the fact that Rossmore is not a drain on the community, but rather that it's a donor. And because it is a donor, that should provide the funding flexibility for the district to carry on latent powers using county funds and not Rossmore funds. And so we have commissioned the Harvey Rose Company, who is now evaluating that data, and as soon as that report is completed, I'll bring it back to the board, more than likely at your next board meeting, which will give you a true indication of just how much money flows out of Rossmore into the county coffers. We've also asked the sheriff to provide us with a cost proposal for police services. Now, people question why we would want to have a contract with the county when we currently receive county services from the sheriff's department. Basically, what it does, it gives the district the ability to manage really how that resource is applied throughout the community, so that the district can be involved in things which currently it cannot be. And some of that could be working with the RHA on the Neighborhood Watch Program, on emergency preparedness, and other initiatives which the district basically has no authority or responsibility. And so we have basically cobbled together a program that is directed at making sure that we can present a credible proposal to LAFCO to obtain those latent powers and to bring those services more locally to the residents who we serve. The other initiative that this board has authorized is the Rossmore Signage Project. And people are asking, why are we doing this? Well, there's a real need, I think, to identify the Rossmore Shopping Village, or the business district at the northeast corner of Rossmore, as a part of Rossmore. It seems to me that there's certainly enough misinformation about the shops at Rossmore when people believe that they're part of Rossmore, and when in fact they're part of Seal Beach. I think it makes good sense for the district and this community to embrace the shopping district as a part of this community, and to preserve it and to defend it against any annexation effort by whatever source it comes. The Attorney General's opinion, I think, is certainly a step in that direction, but there is nothing that it's not law. It's simply an opinion which could be countered by another opinion from the county. So everything that the district is currently involved with, I think, is directed at maintaining this community in keeping with what I just reported as being the most livable community in California and 9th in the nation. So that's my response to the inquiries that have been made about why this district and this board and this staff are engaged in those initiatives. That's my report, sir.
All right, board member items.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one.
You can start? I'll start. Can I start?
Start.
Mr. Rips, please.
I wanted to just jump on the our ranking, and I know you talked about doing something at the May festival, but I would really like to see us play this up big now and have it as part of all of our marketing that goes on. Every one of our emails should just be there, a little logo that says, hey, #1 in California, with a link to our website. That's that information right there.
Liz has authored a front page article for your next newsletter, which I put a smiley face on because it's so well written.
Excellent. I just think it really is a great testament for our community, and I think it's a testament to who the board and the boards that came before us and the staff that works here and the community at large, just how great this place is. And I think it's important that we market and brand that really, really well to our community members, that they know and that they understand that this is a place that is great. I also, if there's a way to get the information to the realtors, I think that would be also a really, really good, good move. But just to have it up there, if we send out letters, there should be some little logo on there. Sure. It says #1, and go to our website for this rest of the article. I think it's a great thing, and congratulations to us all. I think
those links, I believe, Liz, are on the website now.
There are links, yes.
Yeah, there are links direct to these.
I'm sorry?
There are links on our website direct to these sites which provide expository information about this.
I just want it to be, like, people can say, hey, we're, number one, you see it all the time, number one, customer satisfaction at different places, or customer, whatever those things are, and I think that we should do that for ourselves. So, that's it.
That's a good point, Jeffrey. I know that when I drive and I see the Tree City sign that we have, if there's some way that they have some kind of sign, some kind of thing that we can actually make as a permanent reminder of what a great place we live in, especially after a long commute that sends you to a different freeway from time to time.
Maybe someone wants to spearhead it with the homeowners association, see in collaboration a sign at a couple of different entry points. Something designed.
It's in the same scope of our Tree City USA type of thing. We've earned an award. It's kind of nice to
even make a couple banners that when we don't have banners that are up in the banner spot, we just throw it up there.
We have banner spots.
Oh yeah, the walls.
All the walls, yeah. That's a good place too.
I just think we need to push it.
Okay. On a different item, this is out to the community, is we've got Halloween again. Please, everyone, be safe. Keep your lights on, and buy lots of candy, because a lot of kids come here, and just everyone slow down on the streets this time of year, especially with kids and the time change that's coming up in a couple of weeks. That's my comment.
Flashlights.
Okay, next. There have been several comments made recently regarding whether the Rossmore CSD has the right and the authority to vote on the 405 expansion project. And recently, the board members of the OCTA voted to postpone the decision on which alternative they're going to use from September 24th, I believe, to October 22nd. And basically, their board leadership is in favor of alternative 3, which calls for 2 additional lanes in each direction on the 405 freeway.
Toll lanes.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, one of which is a toll lane. And lest anybody be confused about the impact on Rossmore, those 2 lanes terminate at the intersection, as you go northbound, at the intersection of the 405 and the 605 freeways. And so just adjacent to our community, there is a high likelihood that there could be significant traffic impact, especially during the heavy commute hours in the morning and the afternoons. And just as an example, this has been brought up before, within about a quarter of a mile of that freeway site is Hopkinson Elementary School, which will have a significant impact. And so therefore, not only do I believe that Rossmore should have a vote on this, based on the impact, I would like it if we had 2 votes. So that's all I have tonight.
Mr. President, members of the board, unfortunately, there is not a seat on the OCTA board for Rossmore. Member cities and other agencies that have a seat will have a vote on that. Our vote is basically carried by Supervisor Morlock. Perfect. And he's fully...
So he says.
And it's true, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Rossmore participates in an advisory capacity in several levels, but that's advice only. When it comes down to making a decision, Rossmore vote will be cast by Supervisor Morlock, who has basically stated his full commitment to the alternative 3 toll lane proposal. There are reasons for that. I'm not saying that that it shouldn't at least be considered. Part of that has to do with the fact that the 73 alternative route off the 405 is losing money. That's a toll road that doesn't pay for itself, and so there's a budget gap there that they think can be offset by toll lanes on the 405. So it's a fiscal decision, I believe, more than a commuter or a community-based decision. And the only thing that we can do is holler as loud as we can, along with our neighboring cities who have also expressed opposition to this.
Yeah, big-time opposition.
But again, it's going to require some mobilization. The fact that they deferred on it means that they're not sure how this is going to
Well,
you
at
know,
the-
wind up, you know.
Yeah, at their most recent meeting, at least the one I attended, there were so many issues that were brought up, and you know, ones that were also voiced by the Rossmore community, and they said that they were trying to put all these together, and they were addressing the issues, or they claimed they were, including Rossmore's, in terms of perhaps having those lanes terminate sooner than when it reaches that intersection. But I think a big part of the reason they postponed it was the fact that they don't have answers to the myriad of questions that were put out there.
But again, the meeting that you attended was an advisory meeting that was chaired by Supervisor Morlock.
That's true.
The OCTA board has the ultimate decision-making authority, and as I said, we don't have a seat at that table.
You're right.
Well, I have several items. First of all, I just wanted to congratulate Coach John Barnes of Los Alamitos High School for winning his 300th high school football game this past Thursday night. He's only the second coach ever in the 100-year history of CIF to achieve 300 victories. He's the winningest coach in Orange County high school history in terms of football, and that's just an unbelievable accomplishment when you really think like he only plays maybe 12 games a season, so that's really just a fantastic thing, something we should all be proud of. It's kind of a big rallying point. There's a big game Thursday at Vet Stadium, opener league, so if you see this before the game Thursday, go out and support the boys at Vet Stadium. So that's that one. As far as the Rush Field scraping, I'll have more to say on this later, but generally there's no need to scrape that field at the present time. It's in great condition for 6U and 8U games, and it also serves a dual purpose to allow boys baseball that needs a grass infield to play. I checked out some other fields and they use grass on their infield. If we scrape it, you may be taking away and putting the boys at a disadvantage, and we want to maintain as much of a dual use as possible on that field. So I really think that should be taken into consideration when we look at removal of any infields. There's been a lot of misinformation going to my next point, and I just have to get this off my chest here. Residents of Rossmore, you have a fantastic and amazing staff that's running the RCSD for you folks. They work tirelessly. They put in tons and tons of hours, and they have nothing but the community's best interests at heart, as well as this board, and I'm very, very proud of this board. And if you have any questions that are within reason, please make sure to ask them. They'll be answered, and you can get the facts as opposed to just listening to a bunch of innuendo and rumors and just outright lies that tend to be promulgated throughout the press. And lastly, this is the last meeting before the general election on November, I think, 6th. So please, whatever your rights are, please go exercise your right to vote. It's important, and then we live in a democracy. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, Oliver. I have a couple of matters. One, I would just like to underscore, and Mr. Rips, if you would reach out to the residents somehow with the LAGSL and with Mr. Tabaoda, I really would like to see them brought in to the discussion on the field. Either way, up or down, neutral. I just want to really see some Rush Park residents understanding what this means in the long term if there is this installation versus if it's a status quo, so that we don't hear this later. I wasn't apprised, I didn't know, you don't communicate, you know, on and on and on. And I know that's not the case. I know we notice, as we're required by law, to not be in violation of the Brown Act concerning any matters that are before the board. But there's never enough communication, because there's always a person who doesn't go to the computer, who doesn't go to the office, or doesn't go to the park to look at the glass board and see what's posted, or even occasionally talk to their neighbors. They just live in a vacuum, and it'd be nice to see that. We try to reach out to those folks, and I appreciate you being open to doing that, and as well as Mr. Tabaoda. With regards to what you said, Mr. Casey, a thought came to me. I'm going to suggest and implant to see that yourself and Mr. Tabaoda, and to the extent you would like my involvement, I'll be glad to help. But I think there's time for special legislation that changes the atmosphere and the standing of special districts, and there's no reason why we can't have standing with OCTA or the Airport Authority or any other organization. We are taxpayers. We are a special district created by legislation or a government agency that's recognized. We're one of the only in Orange County that has this umbrella, and there's no reason why we should not be able to have a voice.
Could not agree more.
So the only way to change that is by legislation, so that they, whether it be Mr. Morlock or his, those that are elected after them, should walk in those shoes, understands that we just don't pay taxes and have a de facto mayor, but we have a voice, and who we send is our mayor. Whether it be you or someone else or our future board, they represent the people. And so I would encourage Mr. Tabaoda, Mr. Casey, if you would reach out to Mr. Silva and Senator Tom Harmon and get that rolling, such that we don't fall in this trap again in the future years. And that's my speech. Thank you again for your attendance this evening, and we've concluded all agendized matters. We've had public forum, and I'm going to let you come on up. We don't have to, but come on up. Keep it at 3 minutes, okay?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Charlie Williams. You may have addressed this ad nauseum in the past, but shame on me for not being here to know the answer.
Okay.
My question revolves around Golden State Water. My water bill this past month was $423. I have water bills, copies of my water bill going back 6 to 8 years, and every year it's gone up $50 to $100 a month. My wife manages a dental office in Long Beach, just a few minutes from here. Their rates are 1/4 what we're paying.
Do you have a pool?
What?
Do you have a pool?
No, I do not have a pool. It's just my wife and I. We wash 1 load of clothes a week. We run the dishwasher once a week. We have a sprinkler system that goes on for 10 minutes twice a week. I travel a lot in my job. We go away on weekends most of the time. So really we have about 1 1/4 person living there. And we had $423 was our bill. So my question is, are we long-term committed to Golden State Water? Do we have an alternative? Because Golden State, according to what you read on the internet, has the highest rates of any water company in the continental US of A. So
Wow.
Are we stuck with Golden State long-term? Do we have an option? When does that option come up? Because it will start affecting our ability to sell our house, because your prospective buyer will say, let me see your utility bills. Okay, here's gas for $43, here's electric for $78, here's water for $488. And also, they have been approved a 15% rate hike for next year. So my $400 is going to be $460 next year.
Now, that's every quarter you get that bill, correct? Or is
No,
it
that's every 2 months.
every 2 months?
Yep.
Okay.
Every 2 months.
That's
And I
still a
have a
big bill.
copy of my wife's Long Beach bill. The people that are 5 minutes outside of Rossmore are paying 25% of what we're paying. 25%. So how do we fix this? Are we stuck with Golden State forever? I mean, who makes that decision? Who contractually gets us into this deal with Golden State? And how long does it run, and when do we have an option?
Those are all good questions. I'm going to only speculate. I don't want to speculate. But, I mean, those are all valid questions. I know my water bill's high, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no argument. I just received a notice recently
Mine spiked last.
of a spike increase that's coming. You know, there's water districts, and I don't know who was on our water district. Not the sewer district, I mean the water district, where Golden State and who knows what other vendors participate in that oversight by the water district. But those are all good questions. I don't know the answers, but I would ask you to raise them with the homeowner association also, and see if collectively we can find out what those answers are, who the people we can write to, and what we can do about it, having a voice, and bringing it to the very fact that I believe your diligence and research that they're the most expensive agency in the United States to sell water. I'm not going to debate you on that. I assume it's the truth. And even if they were the third most expensive, that's still too expensive.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know where we start, but start at the beginning, and let's see if we can get all of Rossmore behind this other than just your voice, and it doesn't fall on deaf ears. We get some momentum on it.
Yeah, 5 minutes outside of Rossmore, people are paying 25% of what we're paying. So our ability to sell our house whenever we want to is going to be...
It's the statistics that goes in the equation.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I went over to the Water District office right off Catella last week and spoke to the supervisor. And as soon as I sit down and I had my bills and I had a copy of my wife's dental office bill, I said, how do you explain this? He said, well, all I can tell you is our rates are indeed astronomically high. I said, why is that? Why does water cost 25% in Long Beach, 5 minutes away? The water doesn't taste any better, I can tell you that. And he didn't have an answer for it. Because I don't know if any of you saw the clip on Channel 2 last week. They pay, the owner of Golden State Water was compensated $1.6 million last year. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Mr. President, can I take a stab at some of these questions?
Absolutely.
Having lived in Long Beach and managed the city of Long Beach for several years, Long Beach has its own water department, which is a municipal agency within the city. They pump half of their water from their own ground wells and purchase water from the Metropolitan Water District for the remainder. So they have a much different supply system than perhaps what Golden State has. And those rates in Long Beach are regulated by the Water Commission, and so there is oversight of that at the local level. Golden State Water is a private utility, which means that they own all of the infrastructure that provides water to this community and to surrounding communities. And so they're the only game in town, because unlike telephone companies which overlap each other and cover over each other, there's only one set of pipes, just like there's only one electrical line feeding your home with Southern California Edison electricity. The only people that regulate the rate structure for a private utility is the Public Utilities Commission in Sacramento. And they hold public hearings, and they have to justify to the state why an increase is required for them to increase the water rates for their service level. And it's not an easy process for the average citizen to access, because it happens in Sacramento, and they come armed to the teeth with documentation which supports their claim that their costs far exceed what their profit margin is, and so they make a case for the PUC. And that's the people that you need to contact. There's local offices, and you can talk to people at the PUC which can explain the process and perhaps give you some idea of what remedies there are available to you as a resident. Certainly the district has no authority or responsibility with regard to the provision of water services to this community. We're in the same boat you are. We're paying the same utility bills as you are for watering our parks and our other facilities. So I empathize with your situation, but it's really something that is bigger than Rossmore, bigger than this whole area.
Sure, but I guess my question is, how did we get into this boat to where we can't get out? I mean, we're trapped.
Yeah.
And there's no way out, is what you're telling me, because if they own the infrastructure, they own the meters.
They own everything.
They own everything. We're dead in the water forever. And my water bill that's $400 this year is going to be $500 next year, and $607. We're going to,
But there is the pushback, and the pushback would be to get informed and speak with your assemblyman and get to know your assemblyman and state senator. And I don't say that to push you off. That's something incumbent upon all of us. And find out who goes to those PUC hearings, whether it's him or his chief of staff, or there's a person that's selected collectively in assembly, or the Senate. I have no idea. But it starts by inquiring, and I'm sure that it's just the more information we all get, the more effective we become.
Sure.
And I think knowledge is important, and we just don't have that knowledge. I don't have that knowledge. You don't have that knowledge. I empathize because I'm with you in paying that bill. Right. I know my bill is way too much.
Right.
Keeps going up. So I don't know where else to start but to get educated. And if I want to get educated, I got to pick up the phone and or visit people. I'm sure Mr. Silva and Mr. Harmon will meet with you. They are very generous, very gracious with their time. They have a local office in Huntington Beach. It's not that far. Make an appointment. talk to the chief of staff. Maybe they could give you some websites, also some literature to start before you meet with them and say, Mr. Silva, do you go to those meetings? Who goes? I mean, how can I affect a rebuttal? How do I, besides physically going myself, can I challenge what they're presenting to PUC? There's got to be a process. This can't be, smoke and mirrors. There's got to be a way to investigate and to challenge what they're recommending to the PUC to approve.
Mhm.
I just don't know.
Well, they've already been granted a 15% hike for next year.
There is a process. It
Yeah.
can't be hidden. It's got to be open to.
And those, Mr. Silva's at what office now? What?
He has a local office in Huntington Beach.
Right.
It's on Beach Boulevard. And Mr. Harmon's office escapes me where it's at, but if you run him you Google him, your state senator, Tom Harmon, you'll see his local district
Okay.
office. It too is in Huntington Beach.
Okay.
You'll have their email address, their office phone number. There'll be the Sacramento office number. You can call them at the local office and start there.
Sure. Well, when I went over there last week, they were very accommodating to a point, other than they just basically threw up their hands and said, hey, it is what it is, buddy, and hey, I'll cut your bill in half for you this month. How's that? So, well, that's a start, but that's not going to keep me from having $450 next time around.
That's
not the answer.
One other point, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you asked for an inspection to make sure you don't have a water leak somewhere?
Yes, I've had 2 plumbers over that have both ascertained that I do not have an under the slab leak. I've been in the plumbing supply business for 35 years, so I know a little more about where water is wasted. I've looked at every sprinkler head. We've got a $1,500 device on the wall just inside the front door that says you do not have a leak. If you have a leaking toilet, a leaking faucet, or a leaking sprinkler even, it will show you that the little dial will spin and it'll show you that you're wasting water. So I've gone through everything that I could, but the gentleman over at Golden State did say he will arrange a water audit for me. They've already changed the meter and said it wasn't my meter, but there's no way that we're using 2 people, really 1 1/4, is using more than a dental office that employs 20 with 10 chairs and 4 public bathrooms. She's using 25% of the water I'm using. There's no way. But thank you very much for your time.
Because it's not in our province of our responsibility to. We have a
Do
limit.
many of you live in Rossmore? Don't you think that we should all be doing something about this? And if you're going to go out and advertise Rossmore as the best neighborhood in California to live, are you going to also say, and we pay the highest rates in water? I think it's your responsibility as well. If you're going to impress on the country how great a community this is, then you should impress upon them how high our water bills are. And it is going to affect the prices of our homes in this community, and I don't think that any one of you should not participate. We're doing our part. We are going to do our part. We will not relent on our part, but we can't do it alone. I think Mr. Tabaoda, and I think that everybody on the district board should represent Rossmore community in this problem that we have, because it is a huge problem. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am, what's your name?
Kathy Boyer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
We're about to close here, Mr. Burgess.
Just real quick, Director Kaler indicated how the board is responsive to customer or resident inquiries. So I just want to go on record that I've sent about 60 emails, probably not always in the nicest vein, but I've yet to receive a response. But I'm looking forward to. I'll be sending those to Director Kaler so he can respond directly, and I'll keep track of when he does and the board does not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have no closed session, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So motioned.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're closed. Adjourn.